Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our last show, as Jennifer just said, in 2022. I'm going to take a minute and say thank you to the Creative Chaos team. Thanks to Jennifer Clymer, director, Paige Thompson, Allegra Leedom, Nicole Taylor, Marcus Murrietta, Jennifer Esquivel, Kat Glee, Jeff Mercer, Jody Schoffner, Joel Schroeder, for your outstanding production work on the Poetry Hour. I also want to thank Ariane May Ayapana for her help. Today we are going to read from the Romantic Poets. This is Bob Beecher's idea. He has chosen a superb group of poems. The readers in order of appearance are Bob Beecher, who will also give the intro, Helen Richman, Corinne Conley, Kay Weissman, Toni Sawyer. Here's Bob Beecher.
Thank you, Harry. And thank you for agreeing to do this. And thank you all for agreeing to read these poems. So I thought this would be a fun group of poets to read, because this is really the beginning of a new trajectory for English language poetry with the Romantics. They were not kind of known as the Romantics in their day. They weren't sort of a club. This is a brand that we've given them, but it was really a movement away from, I would say, more moralistic, formalistic poetry to something that felt more individualistic, spontaneous, and I think more kind of revelation of innermost thoughts, and really starts a new path in English language poetry that obviously goes on to today. And I think a lot of the poets that we know and love really have their roots in Romantic poetry. So before we get started, though, I asked Harry whether I could read a poem that for me is the springboard for a lot of Romantic poetry. It is very formalistic. It's got a very specific rhyme and meter to it, but the mood of it really is a launching pad for the Romantics. The poem is Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard. It's one of my favorite English language poems. Thomas Gray obviously predates a lot of these folks by a generation or two, is the author. The curfew knolls the tell of the knell. The curfew knolls tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly o'er the lea. The plowman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. Save from that yonder ivy-mantled tower, the moping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower molest her ancient solitary reign. Beneath those rugged elms that yew trees shade, where heaves the turf in many a moldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. The breezy call of incest-breathing morn, the swallow twittering from the straw-built shed, the cock's shrill clarion, or the echoing horn, no more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, or busy housewife ply her evening care. No children run to lisp their sire's return, or climb his knees the envied kiss to share. Oft did the harvest to their sickle yield, their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. How jocund did they drive their team afield, how bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile, the short and simple annals of the poor. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, await alike the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. Nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory o'er their tomb no trophies raise, where through the long drawn aisle and fretted vault, the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull, cold ear of death? Perhaps in this neglected spot is laid some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hands that the rod of empire might have swayed, or waked to ecstasy the living lyre. But knowledge to their eyes her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did ne'er unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage, and froze the genial current of the soul. Full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark, unfathomed caves of ocean bear. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen, and waste its sweetness on the desert air. Some village Hampton that with dauntless breast, the little tyrant of his fields withstood. Some mute inglorious Milton here may rest. Some Cromwell guiltless of his country's blood. The applause of listening senates to command, the threats of pain and ruin to despise, to scatter plenty o'er a smiling land, and read their history in a nation's eyes. Their lot forbade, nor circumscribed alone their growing virtues, but their crimes confined, forbade to wade through slaughters to a throne, and shut the gates of mercy on mankind. The struggling pangs of conscious truth to hide, to quench the blushes of ingenuous shame, or heap the shrine of luxury and pride with incense kindled at the muse's flame. Far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife, their sober wishes never learned to stray. Along the cool, sequestered vale of life, they kept the noiseless tenor of their way. Yet even these bones from insult to protect, some frail memorial still erected nigh, with uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture decked, implores the passing tribute of a sigh. Their name, their years, spelt by the unlettered muse, the place of fame and elegy supply. And many a holy text around she strews that teach the rustic moralist to die. For who to dumb forgetfulness a prey, displeasing, anxious being, ere resigned, left the warm precincts of the cheerful day, nor cast one longing, lingering look behind. On some fond breast the parting soul relies, some pious drops the closing eye requires. Even from the tomb the voice of nature cries, even in our ashes live their wonted fires. For thee, who mindful of the unhonored dead, dost in these lines their artless tale relate. If chance, by lonely contemplation led, some kindred spirit shall inquire thy fate. Haply some hoary-headed swain may say, oft have we seen him at the peep of dawn, rushing with hasty steps the dews away, to meet the sun upon the upland lawn. There at the foot of yonder nodding beech, that wreathes its old fantastic roots so high, his listless length at noontide would he stretch, and pour upon the brooks that babble by. Hard by yon wood, now smiling as in scorn, muttering his wayward fancies, he would rove, now drooping, woeful wan, like one forlorn, or crazed with care, or crossed in hopeless love. One morn I missed him on the custom hill, along the heath and near his favorite tree another came, nor yet beside the rill, nor up the lawn, nor at the wood was he. The next with dirges due in sad array, slow through the church way path we saw him borne. Approach and read, for thou canst read the lay graved on the stone beneath yon aged thorn. Here rests his head upon the lap of earth, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair science frowned not on his humble birth, and melancholy marked him for her own. Large was his bounty and his soul sincere. Heaven did a recompense as largely send. He gave to misery all he had, a tear. A gain from heaven, 'twas all he wished, a friend. No further secrets immersed to disclose, or draw his frailties from their dread abode. They alike in trembling hope repose, the bosom of his Father and his God.
The Chimney Sweeper by William Blake. A little black thing among the snow, crying, weep, weep, in notes of woe. Where are thy father and mother, say? They are both gone up to the church to pray. Because I was happy upon the heath, and smiled among the winter's snow, they clothed me in the clothes of death, and taught me to sing the notes of woe. And because I am happy and dance and sing, they think they have done me no injury, and are gone to praise God and his priest and king, who make up a heaven of our misery. The Tiger by William Blake. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil? What dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who make the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? Ah, Sunflower by William Blake. Ah, sunflower, weary of time, who countest the steps of the sun, seeking after that sweet golden clime where the traveler's journey is done, where the youth pined away with desire and the pale virgin shrouded in snow arise from their graves and aspire where my sunflower wishes to go. Strange fits of passion have I known by William Wordsworth. Strange fits of passion have I known, and I will dare to tell, but in the lover's ear alone what once to me befell. When she I loved looked every day fresh as a rose in June, I to her cottage bent my way beneath an evening moon. Upon the moon I fixed my eye, all over the wide lea. With quickening pace my horse drew nigh, those paths so dear to me. And now we reached the orchard plot, and as we climbed the hill, the sinking moon to Lucy's cot came near and nearer still. In one of those sweet dreams I slept, kind nature's gentlest boon, and all the while my eyes I kept on the descending moon. My horse moved on, hoof after hoof, he raised and never stopped, when down behind the cottage roof at once the bright moon dropped. What fond and wayward thoughts will slide into a lover's head Oh, mercy to myself, I cried, if Lucy should be dead. I wandered lonely as a cloud by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. The World is Too Much With Us, Late and Soon, by William Wordsworth. The world is too much with us, late and soon. Getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. The sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn, have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn.
Ode, Intimations of Immortality, from Recollections of Early Childhood, by William Wordsworth. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been of yore. Turn wheresoe'er I may, by night or day, the things which I have seen, I now can see no more. The rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose. The moon doth with delight look round her when the heavens are bare. Waters on a starry night are beautiful and fair. The sunshine is a glorious birth. But yet I know, where'er I go, that there hath passed away a glory from the earth. Now, while the birds thus sing a joyous song, and while the young lambs bound as to the tabor's sound, to me alone there came a thought of grief. A timely utterance gave that thought relief, and I am strong again. The cataracts blow their trumpets from the steep. No more shall grief of mine the season wrong. I hear the echoes through the mountains throng. The winds come to me from the fields of sleep, and all the earth is gay. Land and sea give themselves up to jollity, and with the heart of May doth every beast keep holiday. Thou child of joy, shout round me. Let me hear thy shouts, thou happy shepherd boy. Ye blessed creatures, I have heard the call ye to each other make. I see the heavens laugh with you in your jubilee. My heart is at your festival. My head hath its coronal, the fullness of your bliss. I feel it all. Oh, evil day, if I were sullen while earth herself is adorning this sweet May morning, and the children are culling on every side in 1,000 valleys far and wide. Fresh flowers while the sun shines warm, and the babe leaps up on his mother's arm. I hear, with joy I hear. But there's a tree, of many one, a single field which I have looked upon. Both of them speak of something that is gone. The pansy at my feet doth the same tale repeat. Whither is fled the visionary gleam? Where is it now, the glory and the dream? Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, hath had elsewhere in its setting, and cometh from afar. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Shades of the prison house begin to close upon the growing boy, but he beholds the light whence it flows. He sees it in his joy. The youth who daily farther from the east must travel, still is nature's priest, and by the vision splendid is on his way attended. At length the man perceives it die away and fade into the light of common day. Earth fills her lap with pleasures of her own, yearnings she hath in her own natural kind, and even with something of a mother's mind and no unworthy aim, the homely nurse doth all she can to make her foster child, her inmate man, forget the glories he hath known, and that imperial palace whence he came. Behold the child among his newborn blisses, a 6 years darling of a pygmy size. See where mid-work of his own hand he lies, fretted by the sallies of his mother's kisses, with light upon him from his father's eyes. See at his feet some little plan or chart, some fragment from his dream of human life, shaped by himself with newly learned art, a wedding or a festival, a mourning or a funeral, and this hath now his heart, and unto this he frames his song. Then will he fit his tongue to dialogues of business, love, or strife. But it will not be long ere this be thrown aside, and with new joy and pride, the little actor calms another part, filling from time to time his humorous stage with all the persons down to palsied age that life brings with her in her equipage, as if his whole vocation were endless imitation. Thou, whose exterior semblance doth belie thy soul's immensity, thou best philosopher, who yet dost keep thy heritage, thou eye among the blind, that deaf and silent reads the eternal deep, haunted forever by the eternal mind. Mighty prophet, seer blessed, on whom those truths do rest, which we are toiling all our lives to find, in darkness lost, the darkness of the grave, thou over whom thy immortality broods like the day, a master or a slave, a presence which is not to be put by, thou little child, yet glorious in the might of heaven-born freedom on thy being's height. Why with such earnest pains dost thou provoke the years to bring the inevitable yoke, thus blindly with thy blessedness at strife? Full soon thy soul shall have her earthly freight, and custom lie upon thee with a weight heavy as frost and deep almost as life. O joy that in our embers is something that doth live, that nature yet remembers what was so fugitive. The thought of our past years in me doth breed perpetual benediction, not indeed for that which is most worthy to be blessed, delight and liberty, the simple creed of childhood, whether busy or at rest, with new-fledged hope still fluttering in his breast. Not for these I raise the song of thanks and praise, but for those obstinate questionings of sense and outward things, fallings from us, vanishings, blank misgivings of a creature moving about in worlds not realized, high instincts before which our mortal nature did tremble like a guilty thing surprised. But for all those first affections, those shadowy recollections, which, be they what they may, are yet the fountain light of all our day. Uphold us, cherish, and have the power to make our noisy years seem moments in the being of the eternal silence, truths that wake, to perish never, which neither listlessness nor mad endeavor, nor man nor boy, nor all that is at enmity with joy can utterly abolish or destroy. Hence, in a season of calm weather, though inland far we be, our souls have sight of that immortal sea which brought us hither, can in a moment travel thither, and see the children sport upon the shore, and hear the mighty waters rolling evermore. Then sing, ye birds, sing, sing a joyous song, and let the young lambs bound as to the tabor's sound. We in thought will join your throng, ye that pipe and ye that play, ye that through your hearts today feel the gladness of the May. What though the radiance which was once so bright be now forever taken from my sight, though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower? We will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind, in the primal sympathy which having been must ever be, in the soothing thoughts that spring out of human suffering, in the faith that looks through death, in years that bring the philosophic mind. And oh, ye fountains, meadows, hills, and groves, forebode not any severing of our loves. Yet in my heart of hearts I feel your might. I only have relinquished one delight, to live beneath your more habitual sway. I love the brooks which down their channels fret, even more than when I tripped lightly as they. The innocent brightness of a newborn day is lovely yet. The clouds that gather round the setting sun do take a sober coloring from an eye that hath kept watch o'er man's mortality. Another race hath been, and other palms are won. Thanks to the human heart by which we live, thanks to its tenderness, its joys and fears. To me, the meanest flower that blows can give thoughts that too often lie too deep for tears.
Scorn Not the Sonnet by William Wordsworth. Scorn not the sonnet. Critic, you have frowned mindless of its just honors. With this key, Shakespeare unlocked his heart. The melody of this small lute gave ease to Petrarch's wound. 1,000 times this pipe did Tasso sound. With it Camoens soothe an exile's grief. The sonnet glittered a gay myrtle leaf amid the cypress with which Dante crowned his visionary brow. A glowworm lamp, it cheered mild Spencer, called from fairyland to struggle through dark ways. And when a damp fell round the path of Milton, in his hand the thing became a trumpet, whence he blew soul-animating strains. Alas, too few. The Lime Tree Bower, My Prison, by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Well, they are gone, and here must I remain, this lime tree bower my prison. I have lost beauties and feelings, such as would have been most sweet to my remembrance, even when age had dimmed mine eyes to blindness. They, meanwhile, friends, whom I never more may meet again, on springy heath, along the hill-topped edge, wander in gladness and wind down perchance to that still roaring dell of which I told. The roaring dell, or wooded, narrow, deep, and only speckled by the midday sun, where its slim trunk the ash from rock to rock flings, arching like a bridge. That branchless ash, unsunned and damp, whose few poor yellow leaves ne'er tremble in the gale, yet tremble still, fanned by the waterfall. And there, my friends, behold the dark green file of long, lank weeds that all at once, a most fantastic sight, still nod and drip beneath the dripping edge of the blue clay stone. Now, my friends, emerge beneath the wide, wide heaven and view again the many steepled tract, magnificent of hilly fields and meadows, and the sea with some fair bark, perhaps, whose sails light up the slip of smooth, clear blue betwixt two isles of purple shadow. Yes, they wander on in gladness all, but thou, methinks, most glad, my gentle-hearted Charles. For thou hast pined and hungered after nature many a year, in the great city pent, winning thy way with sad yet patient soul, through evil and pain and strange calamity. Ah, slowly sink behind the western ridge, thou glorious sun. Shine in the slant beams of the sinking orb, ye purple heath flowers. Richlier burn, ye clouds. Live in the yellow light, ye distant groves, and kindle, thou blue ocean. So my friend, struck with deep joy, may stand, as I have stood, silent with swimming sense, yea, gazing round in the wide landscape, gaze till all doth seem less gross than bodily, and of such hues as veil the Almighty Spirit, when yet he makes spirits perceive his presence. A delight comes sudden in my heart, and I am glad as I myself were there. nor in this bower, this little lime tree bower, have I not marked much that has soothed me. Pale beneath the blaze hung the transparent foliage, and I watched some broad and sunny leaf, and loved to see the shadow of the leaf and stem above the dappling its sunshine. And that walnut tree was richly tinged, and a deep radiance lay full in the ancient ivy, which usurps those fronting elms. And now, with blackest mass marks the dark branches gleam a lighter hue through the late twilight. And though now the bat wheels silent by, and not a swallow twitters, yet still the solitary humble bee sings in the bean flower. Henceforth I shall know that nature ne'er deserts the wise and pure. No plot so narrow, be but nature there. No waste so vacant, but may well employ each faculty of sense, and keep the heart awake to love and beauty. And sometimes 'tis well to be bereft of promised good, that we may lift the soul and contemplate with lively joy the joys we cannot share. My gentle-hearted Charles, when the last rook beat its straight path along the dusky air, homewards, I blessed it, deeming its black wing now a dim speck, now vanishing in light, had crossed the mighty orb's dilated glory, while thou stoodst gazing, or when all was calm, but still, flew creaking o'er thy head, and had a charm for thee, my gentle Charles, to whom no sound is dissonant, which tells of life. Kubla Khan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decreed, where Alph, the sacred river, ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground, with walls and towers, were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree. And here were forests, ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. But oh, that deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedarn cover, a savage place, as holy and enchanted as ere beneath a waning moon was haunted by woman wailing for her demon lover. And from this chasm, with ceaseless turmoil seething of this earth in fast, thick pants were breathing, a mighty fountain momently was forced. Amid those swift, half-intermitted bursts, huge fragrance vaulted like rebounding hail, or chafy grain beneath the thresher's flail. And mid these dancing rocks at once and ever it flung up momently the sacred river. 5 miles meandering with a mazy motion, through wood and dale the sacred river ran, then reached the caverns measureless to man, and sank in tumult to a lifeless ocean. And mid this tumult, Kubla heard from afar ancestral voices prophesying war. The shadow of the doom of pleasure floated midway in the waves, where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the caves. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice, a damsel with a dulcimer in a vision once I saw. It was Abyssinian made, and on her dulcimer she played singing of Mount Abora. I could revive within me her symphony and song, to such a deep delight would win me, that with music loud and long, I would build that dome in air, that sunny dome. These caves of ice, and all who heard should see them there, and all should cry, beware, beware his flashing eyes, his floating hair. Weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread, for he on honeydew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise.
She walks in beauty, Lord Byron. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes, thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace, which waves in every raven tress, or softly lightens o'er her face, where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. And on that cheek and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow, but tell of days in goodness spent, a peace of mind of peace with all below, a heart whose love is innocent. Darkness by Lord Byron. I had a dream, which was not all a dream. The bright sun was extinguished, and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space, rayless and pathless, and the icy earth swung blind and blackening in the moonless air. Morn came and went and came and brought no day. And men forgot their passions in the dead of this, their desolation. And all hearts were chilled into a selfish prayer for light. And they did live by watchfires, and the thrones, the palaces of crowned kings, the huts, the habitations of all things which dwell, were burnt for beacons. Cities were consumed, and men gathered round their blazing homes to look once more into each other's face. Happy were those who dwelt within the eye of the volcanoes, and their mountain torch of fearful hope was all the world contained. Forests were set on fire, but hour by hour they fell and faded, and the crackling trunks extinguished with a crash, and all was black. The brows of men by the despairing light wore an unearthly aspect, as by fits the flashes fell upon them. Some lay down and hid their eyes and wept, and some did rest their chins upon their clenched hands and smiled, and others hurried to and fro and fed their funeral piles with fuel and looked up with mad disquietude on the dull sky, the pall of the past world, and then again with curses cast them down upon the dust and gnashed their teeth and howled, the while the birds shrieked and terrified did flutter on the ground and flap their useless wings. The wildest brutes came tame and tremulous,
and vipers crawled and twined themselves among the multitude, hissing but stingless, and they were slain for food. And war, which for a moment was no more, but did glut himself again. A meal was bought with blood, and each sate sullenly apart, gorging himself in gloom. No love was left. All earth was but one thought, and that was death, immediate and inglorious, and the pang of famine fed upon all entrails. Men died, and their bones were tuneless as their flesh. The meager by the meager were devoured. Even dogs assailed their masters, all save one, and he was faithful to a course and kept the birds and beasts and famished men at bay till hunger clung them, or the dropping dead lured their lank jaws. Himself sought out no food, but with a piteous and perpetual moan and a quick, desolate cry, licking the hand which answered not with a caress, he died. The crowd was famished by degrees, but two of an enormous city did survive, and they were enemies. They met beside the dying embers of an altar place where had been heaped a mass of holy things for an unholy usage. They raked up and shivering, scraped with their cold skeleton hands the feeble ashes, and their feeble breath blew for a little life and made a flame, which was a mockery. Then they lifted up their eyes as it grew lighter and beheld each other's aspects, saw and shrieked and died, even of their mutual hideousness. They died, unknowing who he was upon whose brow famine had written, fiend. The world was void. The populous and the powerful was a lump, seasonless, herbless, treeless, manless, lifeless, a lump of death, a chaos of hard clay. The rivers, lakes, and ocean all stood still, and nothing stirred within their silent depths. Ships, sailorless, lay rotting on the sea, and their masts fell down piecemeal as they dropped. They slept on the abyss without a surge. The waves were dead. The tides were in their grave. The moon, their mistress, had expired before. The winds were withered in the stagnant air. The clouds perished. Darkness had no need of aid from them. She was the universe. Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor, well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Love's Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single. All things by a law divine. In one spirit meet and mingle. Why not I with thine? See the mountains kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it disdained its brother. And the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What is all this sweet work worth if thou kiss not me?
On first looking into Chapman's Homer by John Keats. Much have I traveled in the realms of gold, and many goodly states and kingdoms seen. Round many western islands have I been, which bards in fealty to Apollo hold. Oft of one wide expanse had I been told that deep-browed Homer ruled as his domain. Yet did I never breathe its pure serene, till I heard Chapman speak out loud and bold. Then I felt like some watcher of the skies when a new planet swims into its ken, or like stout Cortez when with eagle eyes he stared at the Pacific, and all his men looked at each other with a wild surmise, silent upon a peak in Darien.
Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian, who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-ringed legend haunts about thy shape of deities or mortals, or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? What men or gods are these? What maidens loath? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and trembles? What wild ecstasy? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared, pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal, yet do not grieve. She cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss, forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Ah, happy, happy boughs that cannot shed your leaves nor ever spread the spring adew, and happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar? O mysterious priest, leadest thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied of this folk, this pious morn. And little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate, can e'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou, silent form, dost tease us out of thought, as doth eternity, cold pastoral. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in midst of other woe. Then ours a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth is beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know.
La Belle Dame Sans Merci by John Keats. Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, so haggard, so woe-begone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest done. I see a lily on thy brow with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose fast withereth too. I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses 4, and there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed. Oh, woe betide! The latest dream I ever dreamed on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La Belle Dame Sans Merci hath thee in thrall. I saw their stark lips in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hillside. And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering through the sedge, though the sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing.
When I have fears that I may cease to be, by John Keats. When I have fears that I may cease to be before my pen has gleaned my teeming brain, before high-piled books in charactery hold like rich gamers the full ripened grain, when I behold upon the night's starred face huge cloudy symbols of a high romance, and think that I may never live to trace their shadows with the magic hand of chance. And then, when I feel, fair creature of an hour, that I shall never look upon thee more, never have relish in the fairy power of unreflecting love, then on the shore of the wide world I stand alone and think, till love and fame to nothingness do sink.
Thank you all for a magnificent and precise reading. These poets are all singers, and so are you. And you people have enraptured me. Okay, let's just go around and talk about the poems that Bob chose, which are wonderful, and how they have touched you. And start with Bob, and then just move the order that we all read. Bob, please.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. So much appreciation to the readers. They're each of them more magnificent than the next. So thank you, Corinne, Helen, Toni, Kay. You're beautiful. Your beautiful voices. I love these poems, and I love them even more now that I've heard them read by the four of you. They dwell on metaphysical concepts and love and death and loss. And they're all such wonderful meditations, and I think really evoke a period of time, the period of time in which they were written. And as I said before, kind of feel like a bridge to the next generation of this type of poetry.
Corinne?
When everyone was reading, it was wonderful to hear them all read. And these are poems that, I feel I have studied. This is the poetry that I learned in high school and college. And as I did research on my own, I thought, I wonder if I do think with age, one gets a little more clarity, a bit more idea I think they affected me more at this age than perhaps when I was trying, studying in a classroom setting. And they're so different. I guess it was Toni reading Lord Byron's Darkness. I always thought Lord Byron, was the romantic poet, and I always thought of him in romantic ways. And Darkness certainly is one of the darkest pieces of literature I have ever heard.
Yeah.
So it's a revelation, yeah.
Who's next, Kay or Helen? I forget. Kay?
Well, I just love hearing everybody read. It's so beautiful. And I must have learned these in high school. I must have gone to high school. But it escaped me, the beauty of this work that's so rich. And so I'm very grateful to be here now and having my second chance at high school.
B- for that, Kay.
I am amazed at the wonderful sentences that come out at you that you forgot, but your ears had heard them, just as Kay just said, in high school or before when you were younger. So they have used some of these beautiful parts of poems in titles like Far from the Madding Crowd or Splendor in the Grass or Did He Who made the Lamb make thee?
Paths of Glory.
That's right. Oh, it's like hearing all of these wonderful phrases in one poetry reading for an hour is like, wow. So thank you, Harry, for having me part of this because it just opened up something in my heart and I just love doing it. Thank you.
Toni?
Well, I was really just amazed at Darkness, Lord Byron. I mean, it just, because I'm a big advocate on warming. And when I was living in San Francisco, I took a year off from my career to petition for Save the Seashore and all this. And even a policeman came up and said, you've got to move on or or you'll be arrested. And I kept on going. So this poem, Darkness, is just, how in the world did he, years ago, figure all this out? Lord Byron. It just amazed me. I love the poem because I think it really says something. But how did he know?
Well, you know what? All we've gone through in emotions in our time, what we go through now, they're all there. And the poetry is there for, at least for me, and I assume you too, to go to in time of love, need of tenderness, facing death, embracing of fear, the deep soul. The people have all put it down on paper, and you people have all, just brought it all to life in such a superlative way. So thank you very much. And not only for this reading, but for all the readings that you've done. And here's Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer.
So we have a caller for Harry's Poetry Hour. Go ahead, Andrew.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was one of the most enjoyable hours I've had on this campus in the last 2 years. I want to congratulate Bob for picking the poems. I want to congratulate the ladies for doing a fantastic job of reading them. I may have to dust off some poetry work. And to Harry, who puts in endless hours to make sure this thing runs like a smoothly
oiled machine.
What a wonderful way to send this everybody off to a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you, Harry, and the ladies, and Bob for a great hour.
Thank you, Harry, for those comments. Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
So I know that, Harry, you're already looking at January 3rd. What can we look forward to in the new year?
We have two wonderful poets, Susan Suntry, an award-winning poet, and Tom Lechaz. They'll give a great reading. So thank you, Jennifer, and thank you all.